How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we're back with another FPL live stream. And today it is double game week 35 preview stream. And as the title of the stream, Liverpool, Manchester United, one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game in the world, in the football calendar. That's the fixture that United look at first, pretty much every season. That's when a lot of fans look at it every season. United versus Liverpool, probably up there. I would say probably better than the El Clasico, personally. And got cancelled because United fans had had enough. So Glazers out and all of that stuff. I was pretty mad to have the social media boycott with the amount of stuff that went on over the weekend, which was pretty crazy. But yeah, United fans are making their voices be heard, and as they should do. You know, basically they upped the ante, and yeah. You know, a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, the cop got his face cut, and you know, this happened as well." But what they're not showing in the media is that the person who was beaten by the cops, who ended up with a broken jaw and some broken ribs, there was also a guy with his arms crossed who got shoved over. There was also, you know, many of people who got injured that were in their teens, apparently, as well. So they're not showing the full picture, and that's what the media does. Spin, 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 only to show the bad stuff. But I think that sometimes you got to up the ante a little bit. Are my Glazers in or Glazers out? Well, if your Glazers in, there's something wrong with you. If your Glazers in, there is something wrong with you. Glazers out, of course. You can't, like, there's a thing that I retweeted. Go check my Twitter. PilotFlame226. There's a big thing that I retweeted, which is basically a summary that this guy did of all the different, like, you may not understand business terms, but basically at the bottom line of it is there's a lot of money that's been taken out of the club, and it's time that the fans, you know, spoke up about it, basically. You know, you got people like Graham Souness talking about, oh, well, they spent 900 million on player sales, which is help the club. Well, yeah, sure, but a lot of that's gone back the other way. You know, the fee we paid for Alexis Sanchez, he's come and gone. Lukaku, who is a big portion of that, he's come and gone. And the Herrera's come and gone, who left on a free. You know, there's a lot of things that they just don't make very... Like, for business people, they're pretty stupid, to be honest. Which makes no sense. It's like, you know what would get more social interaction on social media and that sort of stuff? United lifting their you know, 21st Premier League trophy. That would get a lot of social media interaction. You know how you make money? You have to spend money first. Like, if you want to get on side with the fans, then you do the simple things. Like, fix Old Trafford. The roof leaks. There's rusty, you know, scaffolding in the actual building itself. There hasn't been any renovations of the place that have been approved by the Glazers since their takeover. There was renovations done when they came in, I believe it was 2006. That was approved beforehand. The club wasn't in debt in 2003. Now it's close to 500, almost £500 million in debt. 1.5 billion in money taken out of the club, and I think in total it ends up being like 2-point-something billion that is basically been lost from the club. It's just absolutely insane. But yeah, I think that the United fans are making themselves be heard. I think the Super League is basically kind of was the catalyst for it. Was kind of like, okay, enough's enough, because they tried to do it when the fans weren't in the ground, and yeah, it's a bit nuts. It's a bit nuts, but I'm glad that they can do it. I wish I could be there. You know, I'd be wearing a mask and I'd be out there, you know, protesting as well. Obviously, don't condone violence, but if you actually look at some of the footage as well, the stewards let the fans into the ground. The door that the guy broke doesn't actually lead to the pitch. It leads inside the facilities, but doesn't lead to the pitch. The actual stewards themselves open the gates for the people to go on the pitch. Now, do we condone throwing flares up at the box and that sort of stuff? No, that's just a couple of people who, you know, go a bit crazy, and in protests, people are gonna go a bit crazy. You know, that's gonna be the way it is. So yeah. But for the majority of them was peaceful protesting. They went on the pitch. They, you know, there was kids like trying to recreate Rooney's goal and stuff like that. And the kid with the match ball, that was another thing. Apparently, there was a kid who was trying to had trying to hang on to the ball, and basically was like shoved over by one of the police officers or something like that as well. So again, there's a lot of different things going around. I think it was a good protest to get the biggest game, in my opinion, in football called off, but the biggest game in English football, certainly. You know, it it definitely shows that, you know, they were definitely heard. And, you know, a lot of the United fans who are out there were saying, we basically we'll let you play when you want, or we'll basically decide when you play, basically. So yeah, the rooftop leaks when it rains. Yeah, it does. I mean, the players, again, the players, if United fans have to keep stopping United from playing home games, yeah, it'll be short-term pain, but it could be long-term gain as well. Because if United doesn't play their fixtures at home because they basically have to, or it keeps getting disrupted on a big level, then they're gonna have to. Then something's gonna have to be done about that. They're gonna have to up security, but it's still gonna be disruptions basically. Like, how are you gonna stop? Like, if there was the capacity of Old Trafford decided, yeah, we're gonna, you know, we're allowed to go to the game, but what we're gonna do before the game is we're gonna basically block off all the roads and sit in the road. What are the police officers gonna do? You know, they can't do anything. I think there's possibility United get a deduction of points, but deducting United points won't do anything though. Deducting United points doesn't do anything. You want to deduct United points? Cool. If the Glazers get taken out and it means United get relegated, cool. Sound. We'll take it. They're still going to be watched in the Championship, but the Glazers will be gone. But yeah, and one last point is basically if they were to get points deduction or any type of sanctions like that, what they need to do is sanction the owners themselves first, because for what they did during this, like, trying to start the Super League nonsense. But a last point on that is basically if you do a points deduction, you're hurting the players, you're hurting the management. You know, like the fans having a points deduction to their team. Cool. You're not hurting the owners, which is the ones that tried this whole nonsense in the first place and have been running the club poorly. The United fans don't want to be bought by what they would call like a sugar daddy, like a Roman Abramovich or one of these billionaires. They basically want 50 plus 1% of the club to be for big decisions mainly, but in long term to be fan run. Yes, the other 49% can be owned by a Glazer or a Stan Kroenke or a Roman Abramovich. But basically, when it comes to like the major decisions and that sort of stuff, or when it comes time to get things done, like fixing the stadium, like these sorts of things, then the fans want to have their say. But yeah, let's get into our Gameweek 35 discussion, because I've been rambling on a little bit. So I'm going to put my FPL team up. Spoilers, wasn't a good week for most people. Would I be okay with it if McGregor buys United? Pfft, I would be ecstatic. That'd be insane. Imagine the situation. You got Conor McGregor. I'm actually just going to put my AC unit on here. If Conor McGregor were to buy United, imagine the scenes. You got Conor McGregor as the owner. Then you got Eric Cantona as the CEO. Or something nuts like that. With Van der Sar as the director of football. At least McGregor is a United fan. At least he watches football. At least he's like has an attachment to the club. There was a thing that Sky News did today, where literally they found Avram Glazer, one of the Glazer owners, and they asked him multiple questions like, "Do you think the fans are customers? What is your response to the Super League? Are you gonna say an apology to United fans?" And he basically just kept walking to his car, pretending like nobody was there, and then just drove away. So, but yeah. Enough on that. I retweet a whole bunch of stuff on Twitter. Make sure you retweet it as well, and show your support, because getting the Glazers out not only benefits Man United, but it also benefits Arsenal, it benefits Chelsea, it benefits Spurs, because then we'll have a situation where there's one less of these owners trying to do stupid nonsense, which will affect the football pyramid, all things considered. And if you have somebody who's in control alongside the fans, who's dealing with the fans on a person-to-person basis, like how the Leicester owners do, how they've been run, it'll be more of a community type feel, which means more stuff will get done. It'll help the community out as well. You'll see more involvement, and that romance, that attachment will be able to be regained, and the trust can't be re-earned because it wasn't any trust to begin with. But yeah, enough on that nonsense. I'm glad we have Petr as a sporting director. I can trust him. Yeah, I mean, at least Chelsea got out of it while they can. I mean, Chelsea was only in it because they basically were like, well, yeah, we kind of just want to be in it because, everyone else was going to be in it. But at the end of the day, they didn't really care either way. A lot of people like Roman Abramovich because he's got Chelsea to where they are pretty much, or at least helped them get there. Is that something I want for United? I don't care if the owner spends money or not. I just want the owner, or the majority investor, as it were, to be someone who cares about United and wants them to be the best that they can be, and help them in any way, shape, or possible. The Glazers don't care. They just go, well, how much money can I get today? How much money can I take out of United? And the way you affect them next is you continue protesting, but you also hit them in the pockets as well. So, like, if you wanted to, cause Chelsea a whole bunch of problems, you would hit their sponsors. You would, stop buying their merchandise. You continue to protest, that sort of stuff. Because once these sponsors start getting bad stuff and it starts showing up in America and all their countries where they're basically staged, so like United, as example, is on CNN, it's on NBC now, and it's starting to spread to America. And if that keeps up, they're going to get more and more bad rep, and then it might cause them to sell. But yeah, I digress. Game week 34, it sucked pretty much for most people. It's funny how you see Aina had 0 points. I played Azpilicueta. Azpilicueta got subbed out for him, but they had the same amount of points. And the only players that got points for me, basically, was Son, who pretty much everyone has, and Iheanacho, who everyone pretty much has. And then the other players didn't, Vidra only 2 points. I mean, he got taken off literally just after the 60-minute mark. Vardy captain didn't work out. Lingard, Cody, Martinez, all 2-pointers. Again, just a really bad game week. It was like an 80k rank drop, still inside the top million. I'm just gonna have fun for the rest of the season, because the difference between being just inside the top million and 200k is doesn't really change too much. But the bright things I could take from this is that the United Liverpool game got cancelled because United fans weren't happy with the club, which is basically what you can is actually quite good. So I'm happy for that. 38 points Semedo pretty much saved my game week. Yeah, if you had like a Semedo or like one of actually, we'll bring the prediction things across here and we'll go to the differentials right away, actually, because the only one I believe that actually came through here was Serge Aurier. Funnily enough, I believe Abraham missed the chance right at the very end, but everyone else, and Spurs clean sheet. Aurier got clean sheet, 2 bonus points, double assist or something like that. He was the only differential that I got this week for our predictions. Abraham came on but missed a chance. Zaha didn't do anything expected versus City, and Dubravka didn't do much. He conceded 2 goals versus Arsenal, who I thought were going to be a lot weaker than what they actually were. They actually showed, Aubameyang was back, which I didn't expect him to be back. I thought he was still recovering. So yeah. But yeah, the game week was pretty rubbish. There's speculations, which we'll get onto in a second, where that Man United versus Liverpool fixture is going to go. But we haven't seen exact news as to whether it's going to be in 35 or 36. We don't know. We just know at some point it's going to be remade. And I also think if the police force doesn't step up their game, the game could be called off again. So there's going to be a lot more police this time for all United home games, I think, because there's going to be protests probably from now until the end of the season, basically, almost certainly. And I agree with them. Don't agree with the violence, don't agree with the vandalism, but again, there's going to be a couple of bad eggs in a whole basically field of people from all parts of the world. I just basically want the club to come back to what it once was, in terms of just the owners or the people in charge loving the club as much as the fans do, which can't be said for the current people in charge. Fofana's so risky to have in your team because he's fast and gets taken off early in the games too. Yeah, Fofana, Aurier Aurier is one of those players too, but played really, really well. I think he came off 75th minute or something like that. Yeah, basically any players that are up until, I think it's May 15th, I believe. So that's, I think that's next game week. Let's see. That's next game week and then the week after. So after this game week here, after game week 36, I believe Ramadan ends. All my stuff closed for whatever reason. Not sure why I did that. But we shall fix it. You would have seen my Final Fantasy Endwalker background. That's coming out later this year for any of those that like MMOs. There we go. Got everything back up and running now. I don't know why I did that. I think if I click this little bar down the bottom right here by accident, it closed everything for whatever reason. But yeah, only 2 more game weeks for those players. But most of them have been being played past 60 minutes for the most part, if they were to play. So, I mean, these guys are athletes, and they've been doing this for obviously as long as they've been, following that tradition basically, and they would have known how to adjust their body in order to make sure that they could still play football and, have to basically not have food, or I believe it's food and water throughout the whole through the whole day, and then a portion of the first game. I think it's like around the 30-minute mark usually. I think sunset in the UK is like 20 minutes to 9. So if you have a 4 o'clock kickoff my time, which is 8 o'clock in the UK, it's 30 minutes into the game. You see players go over the sideline and munch on something real quick, and then they probably have something at halftime too. But it is tough. It is tough. Okay, on to our predictions. So Southampton and Leicester ended up being a 1-1. Expected a lot more when Jamie Vardy got taken down for what I think is, it's being called more and more and more in the game nowadays with VAR. Yes, Vestergaard follows through, but he passes the ball, and it's going back to the goalkeeper, I think, with enough pace to where he could have cleared it anyway. And this whole follow-through thing afterwards, like, what's he supposed to do? Yeah, he makes a bad touch, but he's still able to pass it back. So I think the red card was harsh in this instance, and I just hate this whole follow-through thing because I think it's a bunch of nonsense. But Leicester were in a good position, only end up getting 1 point out of it, though. And yeah, so I got that one wrong there. And if you're familiar with how we do the scoring, I'll just remind those who aren't. 3 points for the exact score. So in this case, Crystal Palace versus Man City, I got exactly right. I predicted 2-0, and it would end up being 2-0 as well. So you get 3 points for that. If I predicted a win for Man City and it wasn't 2-0, I get 1 point, and it's 0 points otherwise. Never a penalty in a million years. It was so harsh. Yeah, I mean, this whole follow-through thing is nonsense. Like, it's actually nonsense. Like, who is it the other day? Balbuena for West Ham. The dude's clearing the ball. Yes, his foot comes up high, but he's clearing the ball. Like, what is he supposed to do? Kick the ball and then his foot teleports back down? Like, he kicks the ball, the guy's running into the challenge, and then gets clipped by him. And then a few minutes later, Kufau basically does the same thing, and it doesn't even get looked at. It's like, where's the consistency? If you're going to call it every time, then yeah, cool. But otherwise than that, it's just nonsense. Like, how are footballers aren't allowed to do anything. You can't chest the ball anymore because it might be called for handball randomly. You can't even kick the ball because it might get called for a foul. Like, if I'm a player now and I see a guy's about to lace the ball up the field, I'm just going to sprint at him as fast as I can and hope he clips me, and then I'm going to fall over. Like, it's just really, really stupid. Really, really stupid. Anyway, Brighton versus Leeds, I predicted 2-0, just the wrong way around. Brighton looked very good in that game. Chelsea-Fulham got the exact score right. Chelsea and Man City scores are somewhat easy to predict. So I got 3 points on that. Aston Villa versus Everton. Aston Villa nicking that one 2-1, which was quite interesting. And although Everton have been poor at home, so not a real surprise there. Newcastle versus Arsenal. Arsenal won 2-0. I predicted 1-1. So nothing there. Didn't get anything for the United-Liverpool game. I predicted 2-0 for Spurs. Sheffield United. Spurs won 4-0, so we get 1 point there. West Brom 2-1 versus Wolves ended up being a draw, so nothing there. And then 1 point for West Ham versus Burnley, not keeping a clean sheet. They ended up winning 2-1 and are still in that charge for the top 4. So I got 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 2 more additional points is 8. So we got a little bit more than last week, which isn't too bad, all things considered. Refs have a lot to do this summer, or else they're ruining it. Yeah, basically, there's a few things that they need to sort out. One, this whole follow-through thing on VAR is nonsense, because what are players supposed to do? If I cleanly slide tackle through the ball, and then I happen to, as I'm sliding through after I win the ball, I then catch some of your ankle, it's not a foul. I'm sorry. It's not a foul. I won the ball first. If I get the player then the ball, then it's a foul. And then you can do judgments of yellow or red later on. If I get the ball first and then I go through on the player after the fact without intentionally moving my leg to harm the player or whatever. Like if I slid with like my studs up, got through the ball, and then I intentionally lifted up my leg after the fact way up higher than where the ball was, and I go into the guy's knee, then yeah, I should be sent off. 2, offsides need to be changed in some way, shape, or form. I think what they should do is allow the linesman to make the decision. The linesman should have some type of replay system, or like behind them, or what have you. And it should basically be a situation where if they look without a line there, and they look at, like, if they need a straight across image of the pitch, or if it's a diagonal, just draw a line, a baseline across the pitch to give them a guideline. If they look at it and they say that's too close to call, give it to the attacker. If he's like, okay, I can see that he's offside, call him offside. Like, you still have some form of judgment in it, and it'd probably be better than what it is now, because then you won't get players being called off for pointing and having to lean in when they go for a run. Like, players are having to, like, when they lean, they have to lean forward. Now players have to, if they're going to lean to try to get a head start or like a running start, they have to be further behind the player than what they were before, which is nonsense. The referee in the PSG Man City game was amazing. I want more refs like that in the Premier League. Yeah, I mean, he was just taking no nonsense. Like, anytime somebody did something nonsensical, apart from Fernandinho, I might add on that. That was the only thing. Like, Fernandinho made a few fouls, which he probably could have got booked for, probably one of them. But most of the stuff was like, people were getting in his face and that sort of stuff, immediately giving a yellow. I think he could have been even more harsh. I think Verratti could have got sent off. I think Herrera could have got sent off. I think Fernandinho could have been at least booked. I think Paredes could have been sent off. I think Neymar could have been shown a yellow. I think Zinchenko could have been sent off easily as well. Like, there could have been way more punishment. And it's very easy to just, how you get players to stop talking? You give them a card every time they give you stick. Pretty simple. If they start abusing you, give them a card. Like Zinchenko, like, gets booked and then immediately, like, throws his arms down and stuff right in front of the ref. Like, you could literally send him off right there. But it is what it is. Yeah. Hey, Mono, how's it going? Fernandinho should have got a yellow. Well, at least it let the game flow. Yeah, I mean, some of the things he was letting go, but then there's the whole theatrical rolling along the floor and that sort of stuff, and that's just not what you want to see, really. It's just kind of annoying. But yeah, surprises of the week, none really, to be honest. Apart from the fact that Leicester dropped points to a team that it's down to 10 men, and the United game getting called off. But that wasn't really a surprise considering the amount of people that showed up. So we move on to the games this week, which is a double game week. So a lot to be excited about. Some free hits potentially going to be active this week or next week, depending on how your team is structured. And I'll kind of go through that a little bit while we're talking on stream here. But I'm also going to be doing a free hit video tomorrow, as well as for Gameweek 36 as well, because that's probably when people are going to use them, all things considered. That's at least when I would use it. I still have mine left as well. Am I on a free hit? No, I'll be on a free hit next week. I have 2 free transfers this week, and I can get 10 double game week players if I want. And then I can even have 11, and then my team's still pretty good set up after the fact as well. We'll check that out in just a bit. What we're gonna do though is we're gonna do some predictions for this game week coming up. So we got a lot of games to see here. And Friday seems like Leicester seems to be the team being picked on Fridays, which is a bit weird. But Leicester versus Newcastle. Now, they need 3 points from this game. They need 3 points from this game, and I think that they will definitely get those 3 points. I don't think Newcastle are going to potentially score in this one. I could probably see Leicester keeping a clean sheet. I'm just going to go with a 2-0. I think Bruce will probably park the bus a little bit. I think it's probably going to play similarly to how Arsenal played versus them. Leicester probably slightly more quality, so maybe they score a little bit more. They score a little bit quicker. But I think Leicester should be comfortable winning this one. I think clean sheet should be fine for them as well. Captaining Zaha this double game week. Yes, we'll get onto him in just a second. Oliver's going 2-1. Newcastle are on the safe beat. Yeah, pretty much. I think. Let me bring up the Premier League table actually. Premier League table. We're looking a lot more and more at the Premier League table as we've gone on over the last few weeks. So let me just move this into the center here. If I can. There we go. So if we look at him, we look at the relegation battle down the bottom here. Fulham are 9 points from, with the same goal difference away from Newcastle. So basically, if Newcastle get 3 points or Fulham lose 3 points. So if Newcastle get, Fulham's probably going to lose to somebody before the end of the season. Out of Burnley, Southampton, Newcastle themselves, and United, they'll probably lose to United. If they drop 4 points, they're gone. And then West Brom, if they drop 3 points, they're gone as well. So, yeah, it's pretty much wrapped up. So Newcastle are pretty safe. In terms of games that Newcastle can just win outright to just end it. I mean, Sheffield United before they play Fulham is a good one for them. And then Burnley, I think, play Fulham this week, so Burnley could keep themselves safe as well. So, but yeah, unfortunate for Scott Parker. They tried, but again, ultimately, once they got to crunch time, let themselves down, and not even Sam Allardyce can save West Brom, which is a bit unfortunate for him. Maybe if he had come in, had been there from the start of the season, they would have done better, but it is a bit tricky on that one. But it was weird on the signing for Slaven, the sacking of Slaven Bilic at the time too, which was kind of weird. Leeds versus Spurs. Now, this one's a bit tough to call because Leeds are at home and have been, a bit, struggling a bit without Rafinha, have been better on the road. Well, at least Bamford was better on the road, but he's been falling off a cliff recently in terms of his stats. Will Rafinha be back for this one? That's kind of what is potentially what we need to see if that happens. That I'm not so sure about. If Rafinha's back, I think Leeds score. And I would expect Rafinha to be back, because I think he was just a bit behind schedule. But if he comes back, I still give Leeds a chance. I think Spurs will definitely ultimately win the game, but I think Leeds will still put up a fight. 4-2 Leeds? I don't think it's going to be that open. Or at least I hope it's not that open, because the likes of Kane and Son probably won't be in my team. So Kane definitely not. So I hope it's not. I hope it's a dull 1-1 with an own goal for Eric Dyer and Dallas or something. That'd be ideal. Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace. I mean, ultimately this game doesn't really mean too much. I probably think Palace will keep a clean sheet and maybe they win 1-0. It's really difficult to call. Just a side note on the whole Super League thing. You think that Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace is going to be potentially boring, right? Or a game that doesn't really mean too much. There would have been games like that at the start of the season for the Super League and stuff. So, yeah, it's a bit tricky. Man City versus Chelsea. Now, this is an important game. Leicester could go into it, relatively close to Chelsea. They're 2 points ahead, but they can extend that gap to 5 if they beat Newcastle. With 3 games left to play, obviously a game in hand. Chelsea need to get something out of this game. They need to get at least a point. Because if West Ham win out, which they very well could, I believe they have Everton, Burnley, West Brom, and Brighton, I think I want to say. Who do West Ham have left? Yeah, So they have Southampton at home, West Brom away, Brighton away, and Everton at home. They just played Burnley. If they win out, Chelsea need to get 3 wins and a draw out of their last few games. So Man City, they have to get at least a draw. If they win, obviously that helps them greatly. And maybe they can force Leicester back into the top 4 race, because Leicester are sitting somewhat comfortable right now. But again, it's all about West Ham winning their 4 games, which they might do. They might not do. Oliver's gone with a 0-0. He says 2-0 on Palace. I don't know. I think it's going to be tough to call. I think both teams might just cancel each other out. And it also depends what City lineup's going to be played, because this is going to be a bit tricky, because City are now through. So do they play their best team and just keep playing their best team, or mostly their best team in the Premier League? I mean, look, the City will want to win the game because they win the league if they win this game. So I think City will ultimately come out and do, or try to do enough to win. But I think the game will probably be pretty kind of equal both sides. So I'm going to go with a 1-1. I think there's going to be a goal in it for each side, no matter what. They're both going to rest players. I mean, it all depends. I think Chelsea, it depends on what happens with Chelsea in the Champions League. Chelsea can't afford to rest players. I mean, Chelsea can just rotate naturally, and so can City, because both their squads are so ridiculous. But I think it's probably going to be quite even on both sides. I think 1-1 is probably fair. But this may be a little preview, potentially, of what the final could look like. Because by this time, when they go to play, Chelsea will know if they're in the Champions League final or not as well. So it could be interesting. Liverpool versus Southampton. I think Southampton are quite bad. They have a lot of injury problems. They're away from home, which doesn't help them. But Liverpool haven't been as great at Anfield. I think Liverpool know that they need to win every game in order to even have a hope of top 4, because that's the only chance they can actually have. I think they want to, at a minimum, Europa League, because it still gets European money, which will help their transfer window. And I think if they can get Champions League somehow, then maybe they're in a shout. But they have to win every game. Do I think they'll win this game? I think so. I don't think Southampton have much going forward, so I think they're probably going to keep a clean sheet. Oliver's going with a 3-1 for Liverpool. I can see that as well. I think Liverpool win by a 2-goal margin, I think. Southampton is just too open at the back, and Vestergaard suspended, even though I think his red card might get reduced to a 1 game, but they might not see it. They might see, oh, well, he was on his ankle, so... But yeah, it's what it is. Wolves versus Brighton. Again, pretty much another dead rubber game that nobody's probably going to watch. I'm certainly not going to watch it. Is there any... Let me see. Are there any Bundesliga games at this time that I could watch or something like that? Because Bundesliga is quite nice. For those that actually want to probably watch an entertaining game, unless you have an FPL asset like Zaha or something like that. Dortmund play Leipzig at a half an hour before the Sheffield United and Palace kickoff. So if you wanted to watch that, that's probably a better game to watch. And then, let's see, what is there on Sunday? You can watch Cologne versus Freiburg. That's not a bad game. I mean, it's not great, but is it better than Wolves Brighton? Cologne's needs points in order to stay out of the relegation zone. And where's Freiburg? Freiburg's mid-table, so but Cologne will still be fighting. That's probably more of a game that actually matters than Wolves versus Brighton. Both those teams aren't in the relegation zone, so yeah, could be interesting on that one. But yeah, I mean, Brighton will probably or should win, but will they? I don't know. I think it's just this is probably my no game of the week, as it were. Yeah. I just think it's going to be 0-0, to be honest. Aston Villa versus United. I think that Aston Villa defensively haven't been great. They've been quite open. United, I think this game's obviously more important than the Roma game. United have a 3-goal cushion. United can literally lose 3-0 and they still go through. So I think that game is probably more for rotation, and this game is more important, because if United win this one and get 1 point, I think, after that, then they guarantee second. So Leicester have Uh, United have a game in hand over Leicester. It is versus Liverpool. So let's say that's a draw. You know, normally we'll just go on the assumption Big Six teams get a draw. That means United will be 5 points ahead of Leicester with 4 games left. So if United win 2 of those games, one versus Aston Villa, and then another game that isn't Leicester, so Fulham or Wolves, they're fine. They cannot be caught by Leicester, so it's fine. Which United should be okay. 2-0 United. Grealish isn't back yet. Yeah, I don't think Grealish might not be back. I mean, the last time we saw Grealish in the stands, or like they really paid attention to him, I think it was a game week or 2 ago. Gareth Southgate was talking to him, and I guess he was talking to him like, yo, what's your injury status? Like, might be picking you for the Euros and that sort of stuff. What's the situation? Because obviously he needs to know. But I mean, he has a 26-man squad, so he can probably afford to take Grealish. But if Grealish is saying, yeah, I'm done for the whole year, then it could be he might not even go to the Euro. So could be interesting. Gotta go. Great stream as usual. No worries, Oliver. Remember, you can check out the VOD over on YouTube as well, which I'll be posting it after the stream. So make sure to check the rest of it out. And like I said, video tomorrow for free hit, and we'll be back on Thursday, same time for the deadline stream. Because my schedule has changed, so I can't do the Friday deadlines anymore. Speaking of which, is there says Saturday deadline on the... Nope. Friday deadline, and then it's a midweek deadline, which is annoying, but we'll have a deadline stream for the Sunday though, which is kind of I can't wait until they get rid of these Friday deadlines. They're just annoying. But yeah, Aston Villa versus Man United. I think United win this one. I think United probably keep clean sheet too, to be honest. I don't think United will concede to Villa, and I think 2-0 as well. I'm gonna agree with Oliver on this one. West Ham versus Everton. Now, this could be a very tight affair. Both teams defensively aren't great, but I think West Ham win. I think they win 2-1. I think West Ham at home have been, pretty good. Everton have been a little bit more formidable away from home, but I don't think it's enough. And I think West Ham, fighting for that European spot, will see out the victory in this one. Arsenal versus West Brom. I mean, West Brom are probably going to try, but I think ultimately Arsenal will win. Again, I'll go by a 2-1 scoreline here. I just don't see West Brom know that they're going down. They need help from other places, and Arsenal could probably put out their B side and still beat West Brom, I think, or at least I would hope, for their sake. But yeah. Moving into the Fulham versus Burnley. I mean, Burnley will probably win. Will they keep Fulham out? Probably not. I can see Burnley, winning by, again, a 2-1 margin here as well. Oops. 2-1 margin. I can see Fulham scoring, but Burnley have been scoring a lot more goals, been more attacking recently. And I think set plays, Fulham have been quite bad on as well in recent weeks. So Burnley might nick one there as well. Chris Wood's been on fire as well. Southampton versus Crystal Palace. 2 teams that like to hit teams on the break. Palace away from home again favors them. With Vestergaard out, it means they have to reshape the back line, and I think Zaha could definitely go up against Walker Peters, and it'll be a tough battle, but I think ultimately Zaha should do well. But I think the main strength here is probably Benteke versus a Vestergaard-less Southampton. So I can see Crystal Palace probably getting one off a set play. And probably keeping clean sheet too. I'm going to go for another low-scoring scoreline. I think 1-0 Palace here as well. Man United versus Leicester. Now, this is the tough one. I think United will know going here that if they get a draw, then they're pretty much okay. Because it means Leicester doesn't gain anything. If United, if United win and Leicester win, United get a draw versus Liverpool, then again they would be 5 points ahead with 2 games left after this one, which means that basically they would need to lose both games unless we need to win both games, which I don't see happening because United play Fulham and Wolves, which they should probably get at least 1 point from both of those, and their goal difference I think is slightly better than Leicester's. Yeah, +7 over Leicester. So I think they should be fine on that front. But I think it's probably end up going to be a draw. Is it going to be a higher scoring draw? Maybe. I'm going to go with a 1-1 here. I think United know that they just need a draw. Chelsea versus Arsenal. Again, Chelsea are going to come here to win, and I think they'll definitely do that. Or come here. I mean, they're going to Stamford Bridge, but I think that they could, again, rotate a little bit here and still beat Arsenal quite comfortably. Arsenal, again, nothing to play for. They're going to be looking for a Europa League final, assuming that they go past Villarreal on Thursday. But I think Chelsea will ultimately win this one. I think 2-0 is quite comfortable for them as well. Been defensively sound, and their numbers have been absolutely insane since Tuchel has come in. Aston Villa versus Everton. Now, this one, again, is a bit of a tricky one because I think this is actually the first time that Aston Villa and Everton would have played against each other. They just played against each other literally just recently. It was 2-1, sorry. I was like, when did they play this game? Didn't they play it recently, or they haven't played each other? But it's going to be interesting to see because they basically play United and then they play Everton again, which is a bit weird because of the whole COVID outbreak. But I think it's definitely interesting. I think Everton could be better away from home. And I'm actually going to go the opposite here. I'm going to go Everton win 2-1 away from home. I think both teams are going to take points off each other to round out the season in a one game apiece win versus each other, both away from home. On to our clean sheets and differentials, and it's no surprise there. I've gone with Crystal Palace, actually. Two great fixtures. Sheffield United first, and then Southampton, both away from home, which benefit Crystal Palace quite heavily because they've been much better away from home over the last few seasons. Just something about Sellers Park, they just don't do well at, basically. But away from home, they've been quite good. And if we actually take a look at Crystal Palace's last time they played these teams, let's see here. So Crystal Palace versus, so we got Southampton and Sheffield United. So the last time Crystal Palace played Southampton, they won 1-0 at home, so pretty comfortable there. And the last time Crystal Palace played Sheffield United was way back at the beginning of the season, and they actually lost 1-0. That was actually their first game in the season, but then they beat United 2-1. So they did quite well for that one. But Sheffield United. Remember, unless I've gone so far, I've gone too far back. How far back have I gone? I've gone way too far back. Here we go. 2020. Here we go. Yeah, they beat Southampton 1-0, and then when did they play Sheffield United? They beat United 3-1. When did they play Sheffield United? Must have gone past it. Oh, they won 2-0. So they got a clean sheet against both those teams. So yeah, they should do quite well. In goal, I've actually gone with Guaita. It has a double game week. Both fixtures are great, and I think the only other goalkeeper that can probably rival him this week is Martinez, just because of save points. But I think Guaita is probably as good as any to get a clean sheet this week. 3.1% owned, and yeah, I think he could do quite well this week. In defense, I'm actually surprised. I've gone with Nat Phillips, and this is because potentially there is a chance that Liverpool could have a double game week this week, and that double game week would mean that their fixture from game week 36, which is on the Sunday, I think May 16th, versus West Brom, could be moved up to the Wednesday or Thursday most likely the Thursday, considering West Brom plays Sunday at the end of the day, versus Liverpool, and then United Liverpool could be put into game week 36, which means Liverpool and Man United would not blank in 36, and Liverpool and West Brom would have a double in 35. Now, whether that is going to happen, I don't know. I think Ben Crellin, if you haven't done so, follow Ben Crellin on Twitter. He said it's a 60-40 chance that is the case. The other chance is that it basically means Liverpool will get a double in 36 if they change where the fixture goes. So like they might put Liverpool versus Southampton or Liverpool versus West Brom, like on the Friday or something like that, which would mean that it would or the Thursday, which means it would go into it'd still be in 36 or some nonsense, is what they said, or they it's really weird how they would do it, but yeah, just keep an eye out for that, and I'll make sure to retweet any information that we get as soon as we can. Then I'm going with Sigurdsson, 2.9%. Again, double game week, West Ham, as well as Aston Villa. And I think Sigurdsson can do quite well. He's on set pieces, penalties as well. I think he can do quite well, and it's quite cheap. I think he's 6.9 million. Great free hit option, which we'll discuss in a second, as a midfield enabler. Yeah, could be quite an astute differential pick. And then lastly, Benteke, we talked about him briefly. Again, two teams. Vestergaard will not be playing for Southampton, and Sheffield United are Sheffield United. So I think he can do well in all of those. So I think, I think he could be for a cheap of, I think he's 5.5 million forward. Could be a great enabler, and has a double game week, and will probably play both games. And again, seems to strike up this nice partnership up front with Zaha. So yeah, I think they could definitely do well. And I expect Benteke to probably at least have a chance or two in both the games. So yeah, that is our differential picks. We will post those over, as we normally do, over on Twitter. So this is my team currently as it stands. I have the armband on Fernandes, but assuming that Liverpool get that double, it'll move over to probably Salah, most likely. But in terms of what we're looking to do, so I have 2 free transfers. I'll be using my free hit the following week. But if I was going for a free hit team this week, I'll show you exactly who I would go for. I'm going to go under the assumption that Liverpool is doubling in this first one. So I would go for something like this. So I'd have Calvert-Lewin, I'd have Robertson, I have Alexander-Arnold. Those would be my 3 defenders, which means I could just put in random defenders. I'd have Guaita in goal. I just put Forster just because, you know, it's whatever. Another defender that's you know, cheap, I'll just put Strauch as an example. Then I would go Sigurdsson instead of Son. I would have Zaha, and then if Liverpool were to get a double as well, that would mean the likes of Pereira would have a double as well. So my free hit team would probably look something like this. So you'd have Guaita in goal, you'd have Robertson, Shaw, Alexander-Arnold, Salah, Sigurdsson, Fernandes, Zaha, Calvert-Lewin, Vardy, and Iheanacho, with the likes of Pereira's first sub, Strauch, Mitchell, and Forster on the bench. And I would probably captain Salah in this game week. That's what I would go for. Now, pretty straightforward. Nothing really too crazy. You could drop Robertson and put in Digne. You could then upgrade somebody elsewhere if you wanted to, but again, I think that team's pretty solid overall. Now, if it wasn't double Liverpool, I wouldn't have Salah, I wouldn't have Robertson, I wouldn't have Alexander-Arnold. I would keep United because they have a double. I would keep Shaw, and I would keep the Palace guys. I would keep the Everton guys. I'd probably add Luca Digne in there. Also in midfield, I'm just taking a look at the fixtures here. If I'm looking at kind of more of a, more of a punt, some of them are a bit, it's a bit tricky to kind of pick and choose. Like double Aston Villa isn't great. Double Palace, you only really want Zaha, maybe like Guaita, maybe Benteke. Double Southampton isn't really ideal attacking wise, but maybe Ward-Prowse gets something. So, he could be, a midfield slot in there, but we'd have a lot of money to basically spend. So I think it actually is a bit tricky if Liverpool don't get the double. You'd have to have some single game week players in there. But basically, the main players that you're looking at, if there is no double for Liverpool, is you're looking for probably like from Everton, you're looking at Calvert-Lewin and Digne, maybe Sigurdsson. From United, Shaw, Fernandez, maybe Mason Greenwood, maybe Rashford, potentially Harry Maguire could also be one as well. From Crystal Palace, Guaita, Zaha, maybe Benteke, maybe Van Arnholt, but again, rotation risk. Everton, Vardy, and Iheanacho, no questions there. From Chelsea, if you're looking at Chelsea at all, maybe Mason Mount, but again, that's probably a stretch. Like even with Azpilicueta, I expect him to only probably play one of those, personally. And yeah, Arsenal again, not really looking there because they could rotate some players, potentially. So again, it's all a bit tricky. It's all a bit tricky for some of those, and most teams only have one good fixture and then one bad one. Whereas if Liverpool had a double, it would be two good fixtures. Southampton and West Brom would be two good fixtures. So, for 36, you'd be probably looking at something completely different. So if this game was Liverpool versus Man United, it would look a lot different. Like I would have a couple of West Ham players, probably Antonio, probably Jesse Lingard. I would probably have, probably a couple Man City punts in there. Calvert-Lewin, Digne probably be in there. Maybe the likes of a Serge Aurier as a punt from Spurs. So if I did like a rough draft and I was saying, okay, Liverpool are playing West Brom. Let's say the West Brom fixture is still there. What I would probably go for is something like this for a free hit team. So I would have Kane up front. I would have Calvert-Lewin. And then there's no real other strikers that would interest me. Personally, I would put maybe just Vidra, just because I know that he'll probably get minutes, but most likely he's just going to be bench fodder. In goal, I mean, you go for something pretty straightforward here. You can, like, Ederson is almost certainly going to play in this game. And then, you might not necessarily go for too many crazy Man City punts, but you could probably go for Ederson and Steffen, honestly, if you're just going to go for one other Man City punt. And to me, that one other Man City punt is probably going to be somewhere in the midfield. Maybe Ferran Torres. But me personally, I was going to go for looking at someone like Benjamin Mendy, would be somebody I would go for. If I wanted to go for somebody a little more expensive, Aguero is the one I actually forgot. He would definitely be in my team as well. In which case you can't go for Steffen if Ederson doesn't play. Who can we go for? Probably somebody pretty, fairly safe. Tough, really. It's really tough. I guess we'll just put Areola in there, because the likelihood that Southampton score is not necessarily likely. In midfield, we'd obviously go Salah. We can go. I would go Alexander-Arnold, and I would go. Mane would be the other one for me. Then, if I was looking for cheaper midfielders, obviously Lingard comes to mind. Sigurdsson comes to mind. And then we have to start picking up some cheaper players. Our third defender would be Digne. And then we start filling the team. I know I have 3 spots left, so we'll have to rearrange some stuff. But then we would just put in the likes of Mitchell. We'd put in, I'll just put Strauk. And then I would put, is Arsenal playing this week? No, they don't. So I'm trying to think who would be a cheap a cheaper player. I'll just put Pereira in there for now. So it'd be 6.9 million short. So we'd have to make some concessions here. So we could go Jota and then downgrade some other players elsewhere. Maybe that means, I mean, if we downgraded Trent to the likes of Phillips, we could do that, which gives us 1.4 million extra to upgrade elsewhere. There's many different things you can look for in this week. But if it was Liverpool and United playing against each other, that's a bit of a different story, because then you're not really looking at Liverpool at all. I wouldn't have any Liverpool players. And then you can go for some more interesting punts. So I wouldn't go for Ederson in goal. I would go actually for Pickford, just because he's cheaper and probably gonna play. But if you have Calvert-Lewin, Sigurdsson, and Digne, you can't do that, which is a bit unfortunate. So maybe it's better to go for like a Meslier or somebody like that. Maybe even a Hugo Lloris could be might not be too bad here as well. Maybe a Lloris and Aurier would probably be not bad shouts there. And then you can change up your midfielder for City. So maybe like a Ferran Torres. You can even go for Sterling, who might start in the game and do quite well. Then it leaves you 9.2 million, which means you can still open up the idea and possibility for the Spurs double up of Son and Kane, and then have Aurier versus Wolves. But if you did that, you'd have to get rid of Lloris, which means you'd have to change your goalkeeper to somebody else who'd have to be slightly cheaper. In this case, I mean, you can go for Meslier as an example. We'll just throw him in there, and he could do quite well. And then you would basically play a three up front: Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Aguero. In midfield, you would have Sigurdsson, Lingard, Son, and Sterling. You would have Mendy, Aurier, and Digne, and then you would have Meslier and Areola. Since I have 0.6 million remaining, what I would do is I would actually change out Strauch, and I would put in a defender that I know is going to play from one of the teams. And I would say probably, I don't know how much Konsa's 4.7. I'm trying to think if there's any other potential cheaper defenders that we can go for. Maybe like a Veltman or something like that from Brighton. Could be okay. You can go for something like that. But hopefully you don't have to use that that player, and hopefully Mendy will play. If he doesn't play, then yeah, it would be a bit of annoyance. But if you didn't want to risk on Mendy, you knew Aguero and Sterling were probably going to play because they don't play otherwise, then you could trade Mendy out for somebody up to 6.1 million, which is quite a good budget to potentially spend it on. And in this case, you might just, if United were playing Liverpool, maybe you do go the likes of Shaw, just because he has that clean sheet potential in these games. So yeah, it's a bit weird on that front. But some things I'm looking for my own team personally. So with my current lineup, I have double game week players across the board, barring Lingard, Salah, Jota, Son, and Cody. Now I like Salah and I like Jota this week. And they could potentially get a double. So if they do get a double, then we could potentially mix some things up. We still want to keep Lingard. We don't necessarily want to keep Son. I think he's probably got his, potentially his biggest points total for the rest of the season. I mean, the last time, what did they do the last time they played Leeds? They did quite well, actually. So that's probably quite good. The fixtures are good, but again, Spurs, I think one draw, and then they're just going to be on the beach pretty much. And I'd rather go for players that are looking to, actually get something. Liverpool still have a chance to get top four. Spurs, I don't think so. West Ham do. Wolves don't really have much to play for, so I think getting rid of them is probably ideal. So if I was to get rid of somebody, I would say Cody probably makes way. Son could probably make way for somebody a bit more yeah, adventurous as it were, and then I can go for, you know, a little bit of a punt. So I can go like Benteke, who's a cheap forward. He's got a double game week, has a, you know, a game after that as well, in 36, but I'm gonna be free hitting in that, so it doesn't really matter. And I'd be inclined to play him versus Arsenal too. So then we can go for the likes of Zaha, who has again a double fixture, and then in defense we have up to 8.2 million basically available, so we can do pretty much whatever we want realistically, and you know, we can go get the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, if we wanted to go that route. If we wanted to change it up a little bit, and just go with the likes of Phillips, we can get a little bit more expensive, you know, of a striker, and get Calvert-Lewin. And even Nat Phillips could also be Digne if we wanted to go, would be 0.1, but we could basically do that, and then we'd have if Liverpool did double, we'd have double on Martinez, double on Azpilicueta, Shaw, Digne, double on Salah, Fernandez, Zaha, Jota, and then double on Calvert-Lewin, Vardy, and Iheanacho. And we just run those guys out, and then we would free hit and have fun in 36. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of a preview. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a video tomorrow in regards to free hits. So, but yeah, this is the team as it stands now. Players that are potentially up on the chopping block, I would say, is probably Cody. Probably not Jota, because we know what we're kind of going to get out of him. He's probably got one benching for the rest of the season, I would say. Maybe two, but again, you'll probably take those 2 starts. Son maybe on the chopping block. Vardy's probably later. And then Masuaku maybe. Masuaku brought him in, he's just been injured since, so again, quite annoying there. But and then maybe Azpilicueta further down the line. But I think Cody could make way this week. I think that Son could make way this week. And then maybe for a hit, we bring in, use that extra bit of cash to bring in Digne or Trent or somebody like that. But yeah, that's going to do it for the preview stream. Make sure to leave a like and all that good stuff, and follow us on all the socials. So yeah, let's move over to the big screen. So yeah, that's going to do it for our preview stream. Make sure to, like I said, give us a follow, subscribe, retweet, all that good stuff. Glazers out. Yeah, all that good stuff. And like I said, we'll be doing a video tomorrow, so if you're watching this over on YouTube, these are streamed over on Twitch. We will be doing another stream on Thursday, same time, start 7 p.m. EST for the Game Week 35 deadline, double Game Week 35. And if there's any FPL news in regards to updates to the double game week, whether it be Liverpool's fixtures getting changed or when the Man United Liverpool fixture is going to be placed, I'll make sure to retweet that and let you guys know as soon as I have it available, or they basically announce it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.